There is already a discussion, a global discourse on the post-2015 development agenda. In West Africa, we have ECOWAS Vision 2020. So civil society is meeting to discuss, looking within the global context, what is it that for us in West Africa is priority? What are the priority areas? So we are going to discuss that, hone in on that, the key priority areas for West Africa, looking at our development. Secondly, we are looking at the role of civil society. How are we engaging government? We have our objectives for our development agenda. How are we engaging government to ensure that we achieve those objectives? That's one. Two, how are we making sure that ECOWAS is real in the lives of West Africans? So that ordinary man, woman, child, West African child, how does ECOWAS play out in their daily lives? What is it that ECOWAS does for them? This regional development agenda that we are talking about, how is it going to be real in their lives? How are they actually going to feel that we have their sustainable development at heart?
Economic integration of our region is still not progressing enough at all. Despite the progress made, there are still many governance problems in our countries. And now currently we also confront a major public health problem which accentuates, of course, previously existing public health problems that bedevil our societies and impair the happiness of our citizens. We are here again to take up a major issue of development for our societies. And I do believe that we will do justice to the theme, we will do justice to the objectives that have brought us here. But we may also want to contemplate how do we use more effectively the ECOWAS organization. The ECOWAS has many important instruments, conventions, protocols, as well as many important mechanisms for promoting many of the ideals of democracy and social welfare. How do we, as a community of civil society organizations, make more effective use of these institutions of the regional organization? I refer, for instance, to the ECOWAS Court of Justice. It's one of the very few regional courts that, for instance, does not require prior exhaustion of local remedies. The Media Foundation of West Africa has used it effectively. However, as in so many cases, the states that are signatory to this very laudable institution go against the rulings of that court. We have a number of cases we won at the court, but which governments have refused to implement in their jurisdictions. So it's important that we find time somehow to also contemplate how to use effectively these institutions and how to get them to work to support the progress of our people. Dear colleagues, I think that the gathering here today is another opportunity for us to move forward with some of the issues that we have been contemplating on and we have been grappling with over the years. We may also consider how our constituency, our NGOs and civil society organizations can sustain themselves, because it is a major challenge, the sustenance of our movement for civil society intervention and contribution to progress in our region.
Dear colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with great delight that we welcome you all to this first annual conference of civil society in West Africa, organized by the West Africa Civil Society Institute in collaboration with the West Africa Civil Society Forum. These are two regional organizations that have as a focus enabling civil society in West Africa to effectively engage and make relevant contribution to the sustainable development of our sub-region, working in collaboration with governments, the private sector, and other development partners. WACC's mandate is to strengthen civil society by enabling their effectiveness, their efficiency, and their sustainability in the long term. And WACC, as a recognized regional civil society platform, is the interface between civil society and government at the ECOWAS level, and is also expected to carry the voice of West Africa's citizens to our heads of state and governments as they formulate regional development policies and bring back to these people those development policies in a way that makes sense in their day-to-day lives. I have to give this background because it gives us the context within which these two organizations, with the support of the Commonwealth Foundation, have initiated this convening of civil society in West Africa to deliberate on our regional development agenda, ECOWAS Vision 2020, within the global development context, the post-2015 development agenda. And additionally, and I think this is also extremely important, to interrogate our role in making this development agenda real in the lives of each West African. It is also the space for us as civil society, not only to review our development agenda in the sub-region and make contributions to it, but also to do some introspection. Have we taken up our role adequately? West Africa, within the community of regional economic groupings on this beautiful continent of ours, Africa, remains an example when it comes to government's recognition of civil society in development. In several of our protocols, this recognition is highlighted. Yet, there seems to be a number of obstacles that have prevented us from fully assuming this role and engaging effectively with governments. It's not only engagement with governments that we have to discuss, but also how well we have been able to bring back ECOWAS to the ordinary man, woman, and child in West Africa. How well does that woman selling in the streets or that man driving the Okada know what ECOWAS is and how it affects his or her life? How well have we used the national focal points for citizens' engagement with ECOWAS? Do we even know them? And have we pushed for the space to engage with them if there have been challenges? How well are we equipped to deliberate effectively with the technical experts on those key development issues that have been targeted in ECOWAS Vision 2020? How well have we organized ourselves to ensure that we coordinate, harmonize, and effectively impact our sub-region in a way that does not fragment our fronts and our efforts? What about collaboration? How well have we fostered this? Can we look at engaging more faith-based groups, traditional leaders, voluntary associations, professional bodies, labor, and even the new upcoming groups like the social media groups, bloggers, etc.? It is hoped that this meeting will help us get answers to some of these questions and enable us to formulate the needed strategies to make civil society's engagement in West Africa more effective, efficient, and sustainable. As we look at achieving the objectives of Vision 2020, this will enable us to play our role in making sustainable development real in the life of the ordinary citizen of West Africa. Thank you for making time to be here. Let's make the most of it. Accra.
2015 agenda in West Africa is weak and uncoordinated on the regional scale. And this is where WACC has got a role to play. Given its mandate and position as West African regional and focal point for civil society discussed on the post-2015, it is exceptionally placed to promote civil society ownership, and active involvement in pushing forward a new agenda that is increasing recognition of the need for civil society in West Africa to work toward greater synergy to ensure coherent outcomes that reflect regional and continental priorities. Civil society in West Africa is an essential part of proper functioning of the states and possesses a wide range of knowledge, experience, and expertise that could be of great benefit to the states. By virtue of its flexible, multidimensional, and non-rigid structure, it has the capability to adapt to rapid global changes, helping to initiate, promote, strengthen comprehensive, objective dialogue between governments and their people. In this way, civil society groups foster conflict resolution, advances human rights, and promote better democratization process in our region. Ladies and gentlemen, a strong West African civil society will contribute meaningfully to the successful design and implementation of development policies. However, in spite of its many advantages, civil society organizations are operating with serious challenges, some of which include low capacity to carry out their mandate fully, lack of recognition and respect from governments, and unavailability of funds or financial resources to develop innovative approaches to regional development challenges. All of this has deprived stakeholders of critical civil society perspective and is untimely stagnating regional development agenda. In the light of the above, there is therefore the need for a strong case to be made for empowering West African civil society groups through workshops to secure its place at core of the development in the region by creating a path towards political renewal and deepening of democracy and good governance in our region. To address the numerous development challenges in the region, workshop, West African civil society groups constituency represented by workshop in partnership with WACC through the support of Commonwealth Foundation in London, collaborated to bring together civil society organizations, institutions of governance, development partners, and other relevant stakeholders to strategize and design a post-2015 regional development agenda framework that will be mainstreamed into the ECOWAS regional development agenda and the ongoing discourse on the post-2015 development agenda. The objective of this conference, therefore, is 1. To institute an annual platform for civil society to discuss development issues. 2nd, to review civil society participation in the post-2015 and devise strategies to influence the ongoing discussions at the regional level. 3rd, to discuss the strategies that civil society can use to effectively engage with ECOWAS and the Vision 2020, through workshop. And finally, to highlight the key capacity building areas to enable effective and constructive engagement by civil society. We are also expected that at the end of this conference, a detailed report that captures the richness of debates on the various topics that will be discussed here, as well as the key aspects of the presentation and identify ways forward are made available. We are also expected that after this conference, post-2015 and ECOWAS Vision 2020 Development Agenda, regional strategy intervention for civil society to engage ECOWAS is also going to be developed after this conference. We are also expecting that key capacity building areas and regional advocacy strategy for CSO to effectively engage ECOWAS on the post-2015 and ECOWAS Vision 2020 Development Agenda will have been identified and engaged by civil society groups in the region. We are optimistic that at the end of the conference, West Africa civil society would be able to engage with ECOWAS national governments, development partners on the realization of ECOWAS Vision 2020 and the post-2015 development and regional agenda. Also, local, regional issues, would have been identified by civil society groups to be reflected in the development agenda of ECOWAS. It is therefore pertinent to note that WACSOP is seriously concerned in the working with the government of West Africa and ECOWAS in the key areas of democracy and governance, peace and security, migration and free movement, natural resources and economic development, agriculture, food security, trade and investment, women and gender, regional and continental integration, as well as health and youth empowerment. We urge the national focal person of ECOWAS in all the states to closely work with all the WACSOP national platform in supporting the implementation of ECOWAS Vision 2020, in supporting the implementation of Vision 2020, as well as we are committed to making sure that ECOWAS move from really ECOWAS head of state to ECOWAS of people. Ladies and gentlemen, WACSOP as official hub for the coordination and synergizing of West African civil society groups, initiatives and activities, as well as interface with ECOWAS, nomenclature and processes, will be delighted to continue to work with other regional organizations in creating enabling environment for civil society to engage effectively and constructively in the development agenda of West African states.
It is our agenda. It is our dream. It is the benefit our people deserve. I am particularly pleased to have been invited to witness the commencement of this meeting and do expect you to come up with pragmatic actions that would ensure an early and successful realization of the ECOWAS dream and ECOWAS of people by the year 2020. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, I declare the conference open and wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
It is a privilege and honor for the Commonwealth Foundation to be taking part in this first annual West Africa Civil Society Conference. I would like to take the opportunity to thank everyone who's been behind the organization and working hard to put this conference together, especially to Nana, Executive Director of the West Africa Civil Society Institute, with whom we have built a strong partnership to implement our capacity development program and the facilitation of a process in which civil society establishes a constructive engagement with ECOWAS. Recently, the Commonwealth Foundation put together a paper with the participation of our implementing partners, and as a result, we came out with 12 key insights or building blocks for constructive engagement. We define constructive engagement as an approach to advocacy for social change and transformation that seeks a reciprocal relationship between civil society and institutions in governance, like ECOWAS, based on mutual respect, trust, legitimacy, transparency, and competency. So here we are all under the same roof, but we know this is just the beginning of a process. We will be talking about identifying priorities for West Africa civil society organizations within the framework of ECOWAS Vision 2020 and also the post 2015 agenda in West Africa. Vision 2020 based on a framework of 5 themes that will ensure the delivery of important programs in natural resource and environmental management, education and culture, conflict management and resolution to guarantee peace and security in the region. The third theme of this vision is governance, which requires leaders to be accountable to their citizens and to demonstrate a high degree of integrity in the management of public resources. The fourth theme is based on economy and monetary integration, which are both intrinsically related to the management of energy and to keep with the pace of information and communications technology. And finally, the fifth theme, which is the private sector and the importance of the development of small and medium enterprises. The Commonwealth Foundation wants to add value to participatory governance in West Africa. We want to contribute to capacity development of regional civil society organizations in West Africa, and we also would like to be effective in bringing together governments and civil society organizations for constructive engagement. We wish you all a productive and effective conference. Thank you very much.
In the previous, framework, civil society were not actually, consulted widely before the framework was put together. Now we have an opportunity to ensure that civil society are actually, engaged, and not only that, we have opportunity to ensure that we also advocate for accountability framework, which was also missing in the current framework of the Millennium Development Goal. That is the legislature, the role of the legislature. Legislature has not been placed, to play a role, in the current implementation of the Millennium Development Goal. So for us to be able to move forward and have a holistic development agenda, we need both the civil society to be integral part of this agenda. We also need the accountability mechanism framework, which is the legislature. That is why we are ensuring that the civil society, the legislature are mainstream in the current, post-2015 development agenda. But more importantly, the ECOWAS Vision 2020, which has come to the force, the only groups that can make it realizable is the civil society. And that is why, civil society has been working closely with ECOWAS to ensure that, the Vision 2020 of ECOWAS, is actually, implemented, and even the West Africa citizens are aware about what the Vision 2020, is all about. As it is now, many citizens of West Africa, they don't have idea, they don't know, and it is important that they know, what the ECOWAS Vision 2020 is.
And I'll be chairing this session. And what we'll be doing in this session, we'll have 2 presentations from Rafsanjani, and then we'll have time for some discussions, and then we'll immediately go into the other session where we'll have a group work, and that is going to be facilitated by someone else. I would like to say thanks to the organizers for this event, and I think before we call the speaker, I just want to make some few remarks that we had been discussing earlier. Most of us have been attending forums of this nature, mostly on these development agendas, discussion about certain thematic issues over the years. But you would agree with me that every time we are in these discussions, the discussions are the same. We say maybe our governments have not done this, or the international community has done that, or whatever. But then we realize that every now and then we go back and say the same thing. But I hope that as this particular session would be looking at the ECOWAS 2020 Vision, that we wouldn't be having a session where we'll be repeating this whole thing again, but we'll sit together, strategize, plan. When we go back to our respective organizations, and also as workshop, we will be able to run along with these issues. Another key thing I think we sometimes miss out as civil society organization was what we discussed about, I would say, a partnership, or who we are. Are we there to simply critique government all the time? Or are we supposed to, at some point, partner with them so that they can deliver better? And that's why the entry point is always useful. You need to find entry points. We need to find champions. We need to find the space. We also need to be proactive. They wouldn't call us up all the time. But if we know our mandate, we know who we are, then sometimes we push for that recognition. I think last in Sierra Leone, we are making a lot of headway on that. It's seldom for you to see a government process without civil society representation. You might question some of the representation, but at least they recognize that there's something we have to offer. So whether it's about the budget process, it's about the MCC, it's about the OGP, even about developing the national agenda, civil society is partnering extensively with the government. So I think we need to find entry points, and we don't take the fire brigade approach. When we are more reactive than proactive, we need to be more proactive. We need to ensure that our governments deliver. So even as we explain about these challenges, I think we are also to blame. Maybe we are not doing the job in the way we are supposed to do it. Maybe we are not working as a team. We are not coordinating as much as we should. So I hope as we are moving forward, because the group work will entail prioritizing these issues, we will be able to think from that perspective and also plan even at the workshop level or as an organization, how do we take the next steps when we go back home and when we go back to our organizations.
I would start with the background to the whole ECOWAS Vision 2020. As you all recall, in June 2007, the ECOWAS Secretariat was transformed into ECOWAS Commission. The ECOWAS Vision 2020, which was adopted by the authority, requested that measures be put in place for the creation of a borderless, peaceful, prosperous, and cohesive region, built on good governance, and where people have the capacity to access and harness its enormous resources through the creation of opportunities for sustainable development and environmental preservation. That was the background. That led to the having the Vision 2020. So, in order to realize the ECOWAS Vision 2020, Regional Strategic Plan, 2011 to 2015, was adopted in June 2010. A set of programs were identified, which includes community projects to be undertaken up to the year 2015. As the implementation of the Regional Strategic Plan comes to an end in 2015, lessons from the implementation of this, RSP and changes in both internal and external environment suggested that the successor plan be formulated as a community strategic framework, for the period of 2016 to 2020. This new plan, beyond the coverage of the RSP, will therefore provide an overall direction with respect to the community goals, set out principle of engagement with the stakeholders, and provide guidance to community institutions, agencies, and CSO in the design and preparation of their strategic plan. In all this intervention, to some extent, workshop has been part of the agenda in trying to set or develop the implementation framework for this. And last year, we had a meeting, with the strategic, committee. The strategic department of the ECOWAS in Lagos, and this year, last month, we also had another meeting in Calabar, where we also, set out all this implementation framework, priority to do that, because WhatsApp and ECOWAS convey those meetings together to ensure that all these framework for implementation are actually achieved. So the vision itself, I'm not going to go into the lengthy document of it, but I'm going to bring the key things that the vision is talking about. For example, under the regional resource development, the ECOWAS have realized that a lot of considerable ecological and agronomical potentials within with the complementary natural ecological areas. The West Africa is blessed with all these resources, and the region has a vast arable and lands available for exploitation, and several millions of hectares of pastoral lands for use. All these, are part of what, led to the, decision to, actually have this as one of the major, key, vision, for ECOWAS, with respect to ensuring that by 2020, an inclusive society, achieves through human capital development and empowerment, opening a peaceful and healthy environment where women, children, youth strives to have equal opportunities to excel and have equitable access to resources for human and social development. This is one of the vision that ECOWAS envisaged, in between now and 2020 to ensure that ECOWAS has achieved. There are quite a number of process in which this will be pursued, but because of time, I will not dwell in all those things, Now, in the area of peace and security, the ECOWAS Vision 2020 says that by 2020, a secured and socially cohesive West African devoid of conflict, whose leaders and people place a higher premium on peace and collective regional security, effective operation of an ECOWAS regional defense and security system that will effectively combat illegal arms and drugs. There will be a conscious and sustainable collective effort to eliminate social discrimination of exclusion, and there will be a demonstrable strong drive to inculcate acceptance of socio-cultural diversity of the region as a positive factor that enriches life in the region. As you all know, the issue of peace and security, it is becoming much more paramount and much more necessitated in the region, given the proliferation of the small arms in the region, and given the kind of conflict and violence that we witness in Nigeria alone. The kind of violence and the conflict that we are seeing, we've never had it before, where it is no longer a news to hear 200 people, 300 people, die. So we are really in serious problem. And if as West Africa, if you look at other part of